right, we ready for the last one?
We are.
Okay, so this goes back to the ladies here. And I love the fact that the lady in the purple here, off her partner's return, I mean, this might even be more aggressive than where Caroline was standing that we saw at the pro level, right?
Right.
So I love this squeezing of the middle and this ability to make the court look smaller. And again, it's in direct contrast to the high school where the person was covering the line, the boys were covering the line way too often. This lady's decided, I'm going to take the middle and I'm going to squeeze your space, and have a look what happens here. That's where the ball lands outside. And I truly believe that movement by the lady in the purple impacts that shot at the back of the court. And maybe people don't see that as clearly as I do. But to me, that clearly impacts it because it exerts this kind of pressure of there is less court for me to hit into it. I need to go wider, and thus they have caused an error. So while, you know, the stat sheet might say, oh, good return by the returner won that point, I actually give that point to the net player who didn't touch the ball, but exerted that pressure in the middle.
Yeah, that's a huge point, how you can create pressure to the opponents and cause errors just by where you're standing, how you're moving, you know, how athletic you're moving. And, you know, anybody that has played doubles or is playing doubles, when you see that opponent move, you often don't even realize it, that you're creating an error because of them. So it's on a subconscious level sometimes that you feel that the court is smaller, but your movement matters so much.
No question. Inferred pressure is a massive part of doubles, and you can win doubles matches by not necessarily playing great and hitting a million really good shots, but just by exerting that inferred pressure and having the opposition make errors based on what you do. And that's a lot around positioning and covering, you know, and territory. And I must say, when I watched the clips of these ladies play, I was pretty impressed with at this level, where they're standing, what they're doing. It was better than I expected, to be honest. And so full credit to them. And I was happy to use these videos in a real positive light at the different levels.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing these with me.
Sure. Do you want me to stop sharing now? Or?
Sure, we can do that and then go back to, there we go. Yeah, no, I mean, it's underutilized, the power of video, and especially in doubles with the position, well, in singles and doubles both, but, you know, in doubles, you are two players where often you're not necessarily seeing what your partner is doing or how you're moving as a team. And so, you know, do you incorporate that quite regularly into your tactical training and positioning with your players as well?
Well, I must say, these days I'm coaching a lot more singles than I am doubles, but I'm absolutely utilizing statistics and video. And now the recreational player might say, well, it's not that serious, I don't need to do that. But I would encourage everyone to get a match on video, a match or two on video, and have a look where you are. You know, you can relate back to this video, which I'm sure you'll provide on your website.
Yes.
And you can, you know, watch your own video and say, oh, how much of the line am I covering? Am I covering the middle? Am I getting my overheads? And you only need a small sample. And sometimes that visual can really encourage you and empower you to actually do a little bit more, do something more, exert some of that more inferred pressure on the other team, and that can make a difference in, you know, winning your club competition or your state competition or your, you know, whatever it might be that you're competing in.
And so you mentioned singles that you're coaching a lot more right now, and I know you played a lot of singles as well. You know, what are some of the key differences for you between singles and doubles and the approach to the game?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, I was lucky that doubles was around. Otherwise, I wouldn't have played professionally. I mean, I love to play both, and I still love to play singles a little bit every now and again. But thankfully, I mean, I had no chance to be a Grand Slam player in singles.
Okay.
And that really does imply that the games are a bit different. Now, they're both tennis, no question, but my strengths, I was a pretty good volleyer. I was pretty quick with my hands, and I was pretty, what would I say? cagey or smart with my tactics and problem solving and that sort of thing. And that really lended, my strengths went towards doubles. And so I tried to play singles, but the highest I got was, 800 and something in the world. But in doubles, I was able to compete at the highest level for a decade and realize my dream of playing, all the Grand Slams multiple times. So they are different games. I guess that's my point. And I wouldn't have had a chance to compete with the likes of the players that I played against in singles, but in doubles, I felt pretty comfortable. There's less territory to cover. You don't have to be quite as athletic, I would say, in long space, or you have to be quick and athletic in smaller areas. In singles, there's more space and more time, whereas in doubles, with a person at the net already set, basically for every point, there's certainly less time and less space to hit the ball into. And that kind of went into my strengths as a volleyer and being able to cover space and getting more balls at the net. I talked about this is what I want to mention. I mean, modern doubles, a lot more players are staying back. And so you can play from the baseline now.
Right.
So that is, you would say, a little bit more like singles, but very different, because in doubles, there really isn't any rallying, right? I mean, you don't see doubles at the better levels where people just start to rally cross court. Why? Because the net player is so active, and if they can intercept and get a ball at the net, the point's over. So while there is more baseline play in doubles now, and I think it's a fantastic contrast that you see both. It used to be everybody serving volleying. Now you get both. I think that's fantastic. But in doubles, you need to be offensive with your ground strokes, and the best players staying back in doubles, like a Jack Sock, who doesn't always serve volley, who many people say maybe the best doubles player at the moment. I mean, he serves huge and he sits back there and he hits the forehand huge. He doesn't rally the forehand, because if he rallies the forehand, someone cuts it off and the point's over. So I think that's different, because you got to be offensive with your shots a lot of the time in doubles, again, because you're trying to be complementary to set up your partner. Right. And then, I mean, the best thing about doubles is that you got someone else out there. I mean, it is fun to play with your friend. It's fun to play with somebody else. You can complement each other. If they're not having a great day, you can have a better day and give yourselves a chance, and vice versa. So I think that's a huge part, and doubles just for life. I mean, for playing all the way through, my wife's involved in tennis and tournaments with super seniors. I mean, to see these guys and girls playing at over 80 years of age is fantastic, and that's generally done in doubles much more than it's done in singles.
Right.
Yeah, so there's some of the things that come to mind.
Yeah, you mentioned a few things there, and so it's what I'm taking out of that is you need to be quick within a smaller space, or quicker within a smaller space on a doubles court, rather than on a long or a wider space. However, that speed of the game is a lot higher because there is someone at the net of you, and so quite often that ball is intercepted, and there's a lot of back and forth within a smaller space. And then therefore also the targets are smaller. Like, in singles, you get a big target. There's a lot of open space on one side of the court or the other side of the court. But in doubles, when you were talking about targets, or, a big target in doubles is really just, a 1/3 of the court, potentially, right? And so you're having to be more precise a little bit, quicker within a smaller space of time. But at the same time, and you said that, have fun out there because you're playing with your partner or someone else next to you. And everyone that I speak to that has been really successful at a doubles competition or a doubles play does mention that aspect of, I really enjoy competing with someone.
Yeah, no question. And in the same account, you'll love the kind of the one-on-one and combative part of singles. But I mean, doubles, team sport. I mean, I played, soccer growing up, and I'm sure you probably did as well, being from Serbia. I mean, it's so much fun to be with your friends and in that team environment. And it's great that tennis provides both. Singles, you can be on your own and be that warrior mentality, but doubles, bring someone in and do it. So
so one more question about the differences between singles and doubles. In singles, you're looking at some sort of basic game styles that players have. What sort of differences, or what sort of game styles would you say a doubles player could be currently? Is there doubles players that are, sort of just that, like you maybe said, Jack Sock, who is, Is it an aggressive baseliner?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they're in doubles. I mean, and there's probably, you know, there's always exceptions, I guess. Like I played against a guy named Fabrice Santoro, who was a magician. And
we all
so
miss Fabrice on TV, I think.
yeah, so he didn't, I mean, he didn't have, you wouldn't describe him as an aggressive baseliner, and you wouldn't describe him as a serve and volleyer, but he could do those things, but he had so much skill, you know, that he would beat you with his lobs, with his angles, with his skill. But I would say that for the most part in doubles, there isn't really any counter punches or ralliers in doubles anymore. So I don't think that that is so much a game style, certainly at the higher levels of the game. I'm sure there's still more of that going on at the lower levels of the game. But I mean, you need to be offensive minded in doubles. And that's what I was talking about with the complementary. I need to, you know, if you and I are playing together, I'm saying, come on, hit your serve, you know, be offensive with your forehand, because I'm going to try and get involved. If you're rallying and defensive or just rally minded, then you're not exerting pressure or taking time and space away from the opposition, meaning that I feel like, okay, they've got too much time for me to try and poach or get involved. And I have to be a little bit wary of my line or my body because of the amount of time that they have, right? And so the game style in doubles, I think, is very much more offensive than it is counterpuncher or rallying. And I encourage people to use their strengths. So, you know, I played with guys that had big forehands. So we would play, okay, well, let's play I, and I'll go to my left predominantly. So you start and play with your forehand all the time, because that's what suits us. They didn't want to come to the net very much. Okay, don't come to the net. When I serve, you're parked at the net and you're closer to the net, so it's a little bit easier. So just because it's doubles doesn't mean you have to run in, but it does mean you still want to look to, I'm going to use my strengths. What am I good at? And how can I get to those strengths as often as I can? And that can often be through formations or positioning to find my forehand, or to use my touch or my angles or lob. I want to put myself in positions to use my strengths. So know what you're good at, know what suits you, and then try to get into those as much as possible. And obviously the opposition is trying to get to your weakness as much as possible, and you need to try and avoid that where you can.
Right. And would you say that the best doubles partnerships that really function well together are ones that complement their strengths that way, where you know, you find someone who, you know, loves their forehand and likes to be at the baseline, set you up, and you at the same time really enjoy being at the net?
Yeah, no question. I mean, you know, I don't want to say that you can't win with any type of style, because I think you do, but I mean, you definitely want complementary players. And for me, who, you know, didn't serve particularly well, it was great for me to have someone who had pretty good volleys, because they might have to defend off my serve. And then it was great to have somebody who served well, because I could help out a lot at the net and get involved and active, and then hit pretty hard, because again, that gives me more opportunities to use my strength was at the net. If I played with someone all the time that had the same strengths as me, then we'd be rock solid and really good at the net, but we'd struggle to hold serve, to hurt anybody with our serve, and we'd struggle to kind of exert pressure when we're at the baseline, because neither one of us really has big shots from the baseline. So you absolutely want to be complementary, but at the same time, I realize that all levels, I mean, you want to play with your friends, you want to play with people you like, and I'm a huge proponent of being the best competitor that you can be, right? So competing means under any circumstances, I'm competing to win this match. So, you know, I don't want people going out saying, well, my partner's not good enough, or they don't compliment me. No, you find a way, you know, compete.
Yeah,
that's the fun of the game and of playing, and it's so satisfying to come through and beat some teams or some people where perhaps you're the underdog or you're outgunned, finding a way. So.
Well, and you know, my understanding is that you went through the qualifying of Wimbledon all the way through to the finals and then winning it in 2005, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so you were playing as an underdog there, and so, you know, tell me a little bit about that experience, and just, you know, what was that, you know, what's your mindset? Because that's a lot of aspects that we talked about. You know, how did that feel, and what are some challenges, and how did you overcome them during that tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I would say is that I was incredibly well prepared. So I was in London, early. I didn't get into Queen's Club because my ranking wasn't good enough, but I went there and practiced every day with whoever wanted to practice. It was a warm up, it was offside, it was onside. And then I also had a friend of mine who had a cannon of a serve to me every day for about 40 minutes on a really bad grass court down near his house. So I was really prepared. And then when the qualifying week came around, it was really windy and it was going downwind, fast, really hard, blowing hard wind. And so I thought, all right, I'm playing with Wesley Moody, who's got an incredible serve, and I'm at the net. So I know we're going to hold serve pretty much all the time. And I need to take it upon myself. What can I do to hold my serve? And if we can do that consistently, we're going to give ourselves a great chance. So on those windy days, I went out to the back synthetic grass courts that no one was hitting on, and I hit second serves downwind over and over and over again for 2 or 3 days going into qualies. And so that preparation really helped me when in the match. Other people were struggling with their ball toss in the wind. It was flying everywhere. I remember we played James Blake in qualies, the last round of qualies. And he was struggling with his serve, with the ball toss, and I could tell that he was frustrated with that.
Of course.
Meanwhile, I was serving from the same end and serving really well, so that kind of gave us a bit of a leg up. And then, throughout the tournament, actually a really important thing happened after the first round. We won our first match, and then I went out to scout Woodbridge and Bupati, who we had to play in the second round. And one of the things I noticed was that the other team was really concerned or worried about the inferred pressure from Woodbridge and Bupati. And Woodbridge, who won there, I think 9 times, obviously a legend at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
And I noticed that Woodbridge, although he was playing unbelievably well on his side of the court, he wasn't poaching very much. He wasn't poaching off Mahesh's return or serve very much. And so he was playing his own side really, really well, but he wasn't dominating it everywhere. And so what I said to myself was, okay, my mindset is I'm not going to beat myself. If him as a great player starts to get involved and beats me by taking over, then that's one thing. But I'm not going to worry about him and try and hit my volley into a smaller space, or try and hit harder, or try and hit wider and make the error. As we've talked about, right, that inferred pressure.
Yeah.
And, when we played them in the next round, I pretty much hit every volley cross court, every return cross court. And, we played particularly well, and we ended up beating them in straight sets. And I took that mindset and that mentality into every match. Like, okay, these are the things I'm good at. These are the things I'm going to stay within my sort of comfort zone of what I can do. And I'm going to if someone can come outside of that and dominate me and I lose, okay, then I'll shake their hand and say, well done.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that. And I kept that mentality through the whole tournament. And so being prepared was huge. Scouting my opponents, having game plans for everyone was huge. And then staying within myself, understanding what I was good at and trying not to succumb to that inferred pressure that all the best teams in the world put on you and were, exerting on us, but I refused to kind of break and crack to that. And then obviously, had a great partner in Wesley who, was dominating with his power and setting me up. And yeah, it was a fantastic experience. And, I don't think anyone saw that coming, and I didn't see it coming either.
Right.
But I'm proud of myself from a mental perspective that when that opportunity arose, I was ready and I was able to handle the pressure and the things that came with it and execute very well throughout the tournament. Certainly not perfectly, and I definitely got nervous, but I was able to respond to those things pretty well and come through. So
that's awesome.
Thanks for asking about it. It's fun to remember and talk about.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you for sharing those thoughts with me and everyone that's going to be listening to this. It's a very unique experience, but it's amazing what we can do when we can stay within our own capabilities and maximize those rather than be affected by others on the court. And that there's a lot of examples at every level where someone goes, oh, I'm playing so and so, she's really good at this, or he's really good at that. I better hit it harder or lower, or I lob more, and then they completely lose their own style. And so it's a great example of saying, this is, I played my game, and if they were to beat me, so be it. But that clearly didn't happen in the Wimbledon 2005.
Yeah, no, and of course you have to, you have to work on your competence, right? To, to have your shots and everything be good enough to hold up to that level and compete. But that's absolutely something that I tell the juniors that I work with now, because now that's all about, oh, well, I play them and they're 1.5 UTR higher than me. And I say, okay, well, do you want to stay home and just not play, or do you want to go out and compete and see if you can challenge them and beat them? And of course, then they want to play. And I say, all right, well, the first thing you got to do is, if the other person wins the match, have them win the match, have them beat you. Don't go out there and think that you have to play so far out of what your realm of level is that you're going to miss everything and give them the match. Make them earn it, push them, and most often they either do a lot better than they thought they were going to do, and that sort of plants the seed of belief in their mind, right? And now they start to think, oh, geez, that person perhaps wasn't quite as good as I thought, and geez, I was competitive with them. And then that sort of stokes the fire to then come back, practice harder in practice, and I'm closer than I thought. Whereas if you go out there and try and hit the cover off every ball and hit every line, then it usually goes pretty quickly, and you're back to where you were.
Exactly. It builds up confidence, in sport, but also in life. That's a huge life lesson as well. Get out there, do your very best within what you got, and keep challenging others.
No question.
Awesome. Well, Stephen, thank you very much. I really appreciate you sharing your experience and knowledge with me, and I hope and I look forward to many more of these in the near future as well.
No question. I'd love to be involved. I love the platform you're creating. I can tell your passion for tennis and for doubles and for serving, all the people that play tennis out there. So, credit to you, and happy to be on today. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day.
Will
Talk
do.
soon. Yeah. Cheers. Thank you.